Okay, I know you have been waiting for this one. Obviously, you know the Punchline podcast with Lawrence Serene. We've been doing marathon interviews here at ITB Berlin 2024, where a lot of tourism operators and a lot of tourists. But right now, today, I have Mr. James Wilson from Desert and Delta Safaris. We're just going to have a bit of chit and chat about what he does and why he is so interested in Botswana and how many years he's been promoting tourism. But let me shoot right straight. How are you, James?
I'm doing good.
Awesome.
Do you still have energy?
Yeah, man. I'm feeling great. Never felt this better. This place is amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. The walks. Have you seen how much this place actually speaks to or resonates with the MICE initiative?
Yeah, it is incredible.
Yes.
There's no travel show anywhere in the world that comes close to this size.
Yes.
It's absolutely amazing.
Yes. So, James,
Yeah.
What brings you here, really, if I may ask?
Simple answer, short, Botswana. I've been coming to ITB here in Berlin since 2009.
Okay.
But prior to that, I was working in the Australian tourism industry. I was actually living in Germany.
Okay.
And I've always had a love for Botswana. I was born in Australia, but I finished my schooling in South Africa.
Okay.
And the school I went to actually had a lot of kids from Botswana. They used to come from Maun straight down to the school because it was a very outdoor-orientated school.
Which one is that?
It's called Treverton in KwaZulu-Natal.
Okay.
So it was a time when there's a lot of guys, the K's, the Lundstrom family. They're all names that are quite familiar in the tourism and formerly the hunting sector in Botswana. And they used to come down, and I got to know a lot of friends from up there and fell in love with Botswana. So it's always been my dream. But
So when did you join Desert and Delta Safaris, and what inspired you?
Joined in 2011.
Okay.
And I had my eye on a range of different companies and operators in Botswana, but basically it was my dream. I had been working with Australia for a number of years, and to Botswana's credit, they are well known in the whole worldwide tourism industry as the most exclusive safari experience in Africa.
Yes.
And so for me, if I had a dream to live and work within a safari industry, within the wilderness, then for me there was only one place, and that was Botswana. And so luckily our industry is quite small, and through a network of people and contacts, I slowly started to try and put my CV out there.
Yeah.
And Desert and Delta Safaris were really looking for somebody who had experience in the international market. And that's what I was able to bring from my time living in the UK and Germany and France. So I applied and got given the job.
Oh, lucky you.
Yeah.
So what exactly do you do at Desert and Delta Safaris?
So my role, as I said initially, was to grow the international markets for Desert and Delta Safaris. So at the moment, the vast majority of our revenue as a company and for most of the high-end industry comes from the international market. And traditionally, Desert and Delta Safaris has been very strong in the German market.
Yes.
And I lived in Germany for 3 years. So that was my strongest role. And there's a lodge that is within our circuits, within Desert and Delta. We have 9 properties. And there's one right up in the north called Chobe Game Lodge. Chobe Game Lodge.
Okay.
Chobe Game Lodge just turned 50 years old last year.
Killer 74.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had a big party, and it's basically the longest standing luxury safari property in the whole country.
Oh.
And it happened basically before the tourism industry was really much established. It was really the early days back in the early 70s.
Yes.
And then unfortunately we had to close during the late 70s because most of our guests were coming from Zimbabwe and Zambia through the border there, and obviously there was a lot of conflict during the Zimbabwe War of Independence.
Yes.
So they closed and reopened back in the 80s. But basically early 70s, Chobe Game Lodge was this iconic place, and it still is today, but they wanted somebody based there at the lodge who could basically marry the lodge with our circuit and with the international market to try and put that lodge on the map, but work very closely with Botswana as a destination so that people recognize that this lodge had so much to offer, not just from a safari perspective, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a bit later, but incredible sustainable initiatives, like not just for Botswana or Africa, but for the world. Like, it is the only property that has an all-female guiding team.
Is that so?
Yeah.
How many are we talking about?
So at the time, when I joined in 2011, there were 7 or 8 female guides.
Yes.
And shortly after that, the last men basically moved into other lodges and properties. And the whole point was to be an all-female guiding team was to try and create a little bit of PR and attention onto Chobe Game Lodge, but onto the fact that they were actually running a female guiding academy there.
Wow.
And the whole job was to try and promote women, not just in guiding positions, but in senior positions within the tourism industry in Botswana and Africa for that matter. And they also at the same time were busy installing the very first electric game drive vehicle and boat. Again, another first not just for Botswana, but for Africa. And basically there wasn't much marketing going towards it. This was all done because the lodge felt like it was the right thing to do. Okay. We needed to go greener. We needed to get more women in senior positions. So my job was to try and promote it more, get it out there international markets.
How is it working so far? What's the response? What's the international market response towards all these initiatives?
Really good. So the proof is in the pudding, basically. So when they launched the first electric game drive vehicle and electric boat, this was in 2014. We had CNN. Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah. Good amounts of PR. BTV was there. International press were there. But it's all very well doing that. Yeah. But actually sustaining it and being able to grow the electric fleet is another thing. And right now we have 5 electric solar-powered boats. Yes. And that's it. So the whole fleet has moved to electric, which proves that not only was it working, but actually it was taking traction, and that people saw enough value in the fact that, Chobe Game Lodge is doing this. Yes. Like, this is a first, this is world class. I need to go there, I need to see it. So not only does it provide a more superior safari experience because it's quieter, cleaner, but it actually helps put us on the map as a destination.
What's your annual footprint in terms of clientele?
That's a good question. At the moment, our occupancy for 2024 is the best it's ever been. So this May, we're sitting at about 70% occupancy, which is considered still our shoulder season. And we have 40 rooms. So we're actually one of the larger lodges within Botswana. And to be sitting at that amount of occupancy over a month is actually remarkable. In terms of our clientele, obviously German-speaking market has been traditionally huge for us. So Switzerland, Austria, Germany, consistent over the years. But actually what's happened in the last 10 years is the US market has grown and grown and grown. It really has. They used to be focused really only on the super high-end tourism product in Botswana. So we're talking like $1,500, $2,000 per person per night.
Oh.
And
is there a difference between your post-COVID, pre-COVID market and your post-COVID market? What are the dynamics? What's the outlook?
So exactly that. So this is basically the first time we've outstripped our pre-COVID performance. So 2019 was our best year ever as a company, and 2024 is about to beat that.
Oh, that's quite interesting. So we are in ITB Berlin right now. What are the prospects? I quite understand you have been engaging with potential customers and clientele. What are the prospects? What do you see?
Well, for a lot, it's business as usual again. You know, like we've been coming to ITB for decades. Yes. And
Walter told me he came here 28 times.
This is 28th, okay?
Yeah.
It's my 10th, so I'm a baby 10th. Still.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. It is the most established and biggest show, but because we've had this break from COVID, last year was a little bit of a smaller ITB. This year it's back to full beans. And for us, a lot of it is like, right, we're back up and running, we're going now.
Yes.
And basically the prospects are positive because Botswana is more appealing now probably than it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Because travelers are seeking wild, natural, quiet, exclusive experiences.
Quite interesting. So what are you at Desert and Delta, what are you doing to actually find a balance between international tourists and local tourism and trying to be inclusive or promote our local people to also participate in the tourism business?
Yeah, it's a good question because the way I often look at it is that the safari industry, let's call it that, because there's also MICE sector down in Gaborone and stuff like that with regards to business tourism and linking it with South Africa and the world. But let's just talk about the safari sector for a moment. And I often consider the safari sector as, for all intent and purpose, it's an export product, right? Like when I was saying that people are, that the wilderness is in demand as an international experience, now more than ever because of COVID, because more places in the world are becoming more overrun with tourists, more overrun with development, urbanized, high populations, all of these things that Botswana doesn't have, right? So as an export product, we're able to put it out there in the market and say, you know what, Botswana can deliver all these things that I've just spoken about, and we're able to charge a generous rate for that, you know? And what does that do? It brings considerable amounts of revenue to the country as a whole.
Yes.
And that's through employment, that's through taxes, and I'm sure Walter spoke to you about it earlier, but, you know, as Desert and Delta Safaris and our sister company, Kurundani, our holding company is Chobe Holdings, which is, to this day, the only public listed safari tourism entity in Botswana. We're on the stock exchange.
Yes.
Our major shareholder is a Botswana entity. So when you consider the revenue that we're bringing as our export product, it's phenomenal. But the point of bringing that into the equation is just to understand that while we are an export product and while we are primarily focused on introducing international travelers to Botswana and selling it, we do need to do more to encourage Botswana to come and experience what we have here, because there are ways and means of exploring Botswana and the Okavango Delta, Chobe, Savuti, all these incredible places without paying these high amounts of money. All of us, certainly Desert and Delta Safaris, we have what we call SADC rates, and we also have rates that are based through our holding company or through one of our sister companies called the Booking Company. Think Africa. I think Walter might have mentioned it as well.
Yes.
So that basically provides exclusive puller rates to residents and citizens of Botswana. And when you travel at short notice, when you're flexible and able to do so, you can experience these products, these experiences that people are paying thousands of dollars for per person per night, for a fraction of the amount. And it really is something that everybody should try and do. Not only to just...
Where do we find that particular information? Sorry to interject. Basically, where do we find that particular information? Because sometimes we don't participate, maybe because of ignorance, or maybe because we can't find the information to be able to learn about that.
Well, definitely social media is incredible. Like, we saw how it exploded during COVID, didn't we? Where everybody had the opportunity to go to these amazing places at cheap rates. But for us, we try and put our Google SEO search rankings on, so that when people in Botswana are searching, they're directed to our tour operator that's based in Maun. But it really isn't that difficult. If you just search any of these holding companies and reach out to them, so Desert and Delta Safaris, Kurundani, Safari Air, who do the charter companies, one email and a request for rates or a time of year to travel that is most affordable, the guys will reach out. You know, we've got 6 reservation staff based in Maun, and they're at the ready, and we host quite a number of travelers from the local market. So it is out there. There is a market, but I think it's about trying to get people that might not be so much aficionados on the bush and on the wilderness. It's about trying to convince them that actually come and check it out. Like,
Yes.
it's on your doorstep. If you lived in Gaborone all your life and you haven't been to the northern areas where we have the Delta and Chobe, come and check it out, because it'll blow your mind. It is something that you've got to see. It's like a world-class place. It is wilderness on a scale that you can't imagine.
Okay. In terms of conservation and sustainability, what innovations is Desert and Delta embarking on to be able to support such?
So as I mentioned earlier, the definitely the clean safari experience is something that is that we're proud of.
Yes.
And it's been spearheaded by Chobe Game Lodge up
Okay.
in Kasane.
Okay.
As I said, to have the first electric game drive vehicle in Botswana and the first electric safari boat in the whole of African tourism industry is something else.
Yes.
And the reason why we're doing that is also as it's like a testing ground for the rest of the industry, but also for our group of camps and lodges within Desert and Delta safaris. You know, we have a really good workshop there, and we have the ability to test out these new technologies and these experiences without it negatively affecting the guest experience in case it's not working or it's going wrong, because we've got backup.
Okay.
And clean safaris, solar is something that we are working at launching out through the rest of our camps and lodges. It's going to take a bit of time because it is really, really pricey, and because where we're based, it's extremely remote. So getting the infrastructure in there and the technology, it's challenging. But to this date, pretty much all of our camps and lodges are solar powered. And I have to say, for the whole of the industry, with all the safari camps out there in these remote areas, it's become almost a no-brainer now that we are all getting rid of generators and only powering ourselves with clean solar power. And then I think the other one to mention, because I can go on a lot, and I'm conscious of that.
I can tell.
I think women we need more women in senior positions in the world, across all industries, right? But if you go in Africa to many places in many of our neighboring countries, it's not uncommon to go to a safari camp or a lodge where every single staff member is a man. Women are generally staying at home with the families and the kids, working in the fields and so on. And I think if you look at our industry, even 20, 25 years ago, mainly women were working in laundry, housekeeping and things like that. Fast forward now, if you go through every camp and lodge within Desert and Delta, 50%.
Mostly in leadership positions. And
exactly.
Making decisions.
50% of our managers are women. We have basically 50-50 quota of men and women in management across our camps and lodges.
Yes.
All Botswana as well. Again, like 20 years ago, we had to import a lot of the skills when it came to management from expats from various parts of the world. But because the company had this leadership program, because they had a localization initiative, today, and as of 10 years ago, all management were Botswana. So I think that is an initiative as in terms of sustainability which sets us apart. And it's everybody hears of responsible tourism, but like we are responsible, right? We're responsible for the wilderness and conserving these national treasures in the wilderness areas, but we're also responsible for imparting skills across the board to the citizens of the host country. Okay.
No, quite brilliant. I think, James, we'll continue wrapping up around these issues, and we'll come and visit Desert and Delta safaris when we get to Botswana, and we'll podcast live from there. But with a parting shot, please tell me some of the products that you have been promoting here at ITB today before we close it.
Sure. I mean, so as I said, we've got 9 lodges and camps, and we're very lucky because we're so established. We've been going since 1980.
Yes.
And the areas that will be familiar to your listeners, Savuti, Chobe, Okavango Delta, and Moremi Game Reserve, Mahadi. Like, we're lucky. These are established areas, and we've got really prime lodges and camps in these areas.
Yes.
But I think it's a high time we also started throwing out new regions and experiences to the greater world and also out there to the local market.
Yeah.
And one thing that I'm really excited about is Tsodilo Hills.
Tsodilo.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that place.
It is incredible. And let me tell you something.
Yes.
This place is an undiscovered gem. Not just locally, but
Yes.
internationally.
Tsodilo Hills is the cradle of mankind.
Exactly.
What's your experience there?
Exactly that.
Yeah.
It's such a spiritual and powerful experience. And the problem is, I say this is a problem.
Yeah.
It's a good problem to have, but because Botswana is such a renowned wilderness destination, like everybody knows Botswana around the world as the best place to experience incredible game viewing and safaris.
Yeah.
Places like Tsodilo Hills, they get forgotten about. Like if Tsodilo Hills, I've been to Ayers Rock in Australia, Uluru, okay?
Yeah.
People fly. Ayers Rock, Uluru is basically a giant rock in the middle of a desert, in the middle of Australia. It takes basically 2.5 hours to fly there from anywhere in the country, north, south, east or west.
Quite
Okay?
interesting, yeah.
People fly there. People go and check this place out. Okay, and we're struggling to get people to go and, or who have even heard about Tsodilo Hills. But Tsodilo Hills is, in my opinion,
Yes.
it's almost a richer site than Uluru, because we have this incredible bush paintings,
Yes.
the spiritual culture that still sits within that place. Every time I go there, I get goosebumps because people like the San have been going there from not just decades or hundreds of years, but for millennia.
Yes.
And being able to impart that experience to international travelers or local travelers is something that we should be doing more and more. So I think watch the space. We bought a camp up there called Namasiri Island Lodge in the Okavango Panhandle, and our goal is to bring Tsodilo Hills to the international market
Oh, fantastic.
and get more and more people traveling there so that they can take a break from the safari and experience some of our cultural heritage.
Quite brilliant, quite brilliant. I
Pump.
guess we'll be following that so that we can see how the experience is like. James, we'll continue talking throughout the ITB show, but for now I may have to cut it short so that we can take a break. But please, to the camera, you'll cut. Please say something about the Punchline podcast for my promo and for my listeners.
Well, Punchline Podcast with Lawrence. I think it's time we did a collab. And I'm just thinking now, as we're talking,
Yes.
maybe we should collaborate up in Tsodilo Hills. Let's do a spiritual combination between Punchline Podcast with Lawrence and
Yes.
Inspiring African Travel,
Yes.
because I'm an aspiring podcaster myself.
Yes.
And my late wife, and we've got an amazing little podcast called Inspiring African Travel.
Yes.
We do it for the love and the passion, and I can see you do it
Yes.
as well for the same passion.
Yes, man.
But let's get up together there and let's put these places on the map and have fun while we do it.
Quite fantastic. I think before the end of the month, we'll be podcasting right inside Tsodilo Hills for the first time ever in the history of the...
Sunrise over
Yeah.
Tsodilo Hills, over the Delta.
Yes.
It will be an experience that will change your life, watching the sunrise on the top of Tsodilo Hills.
Or
Incredible,
listen
man.
to the podcast.
Okay, bro, let's do it. Thanks, everybody.
Okay,
Well done,
James.
mate.
Thanks a lot.
Sharp.
Cheers.